What is up, folks? Welcome back to another Budget Monk video here. Today we're going to be playing as the nation of Byzantium, and I'm going to show you guys how to own in the current patch, the Rule Britannia patch 1.25. So with that being said, we've been here and done this before. This is really the bread and butter of my channel, I suppose. But we're going to get straight into things here, deleting the fort in southern Greece, as well as transferring my troops over here. I'm going to be turning my army maintenance down and also turning down my fort maintenance. Now, in regards to rivals, guys, Serbia is going to rival you very frequently. However, if they don't, you're going to want to ally them. If they have rivaled you, the good news is that rivaling them in return is going to enable you to ally Wallachia. Now, the reason Serbia is actually superior to Wallachia is Serbia will always hate the Ottomans because he actually has a core that he desires, whereas Wallachia, it is just RNG whether he is really hostile and wants that land or not. Now, the way you can tell that is by checking their high priority provinces. I recommend that you grab Theodoro just like I did as an ally, as he's almost always an available option, and we are going to go ahead and royal marriage Athens, which might be more significant than you think depending on how things go. Now guys, what I'm going to go ahead and do is ally Wallachia, which won't take me long, but I'm also going to begin improving relations with Hungary and Poland. With that being said, guys, you're definitely going to want to take a look at who among the standard powers is actually a significant ally option. And of course, things you're looking out for example, is rival of rival, enemy of enemy, with Hungary through Venice, those such things. But if you desperately do need Poland to actually have enemy of enemy via the Ottomans, for example, there is a way to actually achieve that, which I'm going to demonstrate here shortly. It's very important in order to make strong alliances that you have that deploy reputation advisor. And if you turn your army maintenance down, guys, you can actually generate a significant amount of money per month. And my recommendation, probably one of your highest priorities, is to actually re-roll your Diplo advisors until the point that you actually have that Diplo reputation. So basically what I'm going to do, guys, is ally Wallachia, and I'm going to go ahead and wait for the Ottomans to attack Albania. Now, if you're wondering how exactly do you intend to survive if the Ottomans actually come for you, that's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate right now. So in our alternative reality here, we're going to go ahead and royal marriage Athens. And what I'm actually going to go ahead and do after I do the odd fluffy thing is actually release Moria as a subject who owns the two southern Grecian provinces. Now, you might think that this is a pretty counterintuitive move, but I assure you, because they are fairly easily integrated, I quickly royal marriage him for liberty desire reasons. It is absolutely worth it, and as you can see here, the reason is because you can actually rival the Ottomans. Now, the reason you can rival the Ottomans is because that is actually a net gain. You can also join a trade league here, as I'm demonstrating, and that is going to deter the Ottomans from attacking you. Now, the way that you actually know if the Ottomans are going to attack you is because they station their troops adjacent to your capital city in their neighboring provinces. So that's all that you do, and you can go ahead and just simply leave the trade league once they have declared a war on somebody else. But with that being said, you can begin accumulating power projection and also get enemy of enemy with the Ottomans to appease people such as Poland, for example, if that's your last resort. So I just quickly want to reiterate that by releasing Moria, guys, those low development provinces are actually more worthwhile in the sense that he's actually going to contribute 2 or 3 troops to the war effort and give you 0.4 ducats per month. And you're going to find that it actually emboldens you in your alliance, if you will, against the Ottomans in the future. Now, the second question obviously might arise, what are you going to do if the Ottomans do not attack Albania but instead attack Jandar, which they appear to be more likely? The answer is quite simple, and that is simply build your diplomacy. Now, you're gunning for these hard-hitting, powerful nations like Hungary or Poland. Also, Aragon is a very significant one to keep an eye out for. Very often, Aragon will rival Hungary or Venice. Often, Hungary might rival you. This is a way you can get enemy of enemy with Aragon. But in this case, guys, he did declare on Albania, as you could see, and I'm going to show you exactly what you should be doing. And a last resort for those of you who don't want to try anything more sophisticated is to just keep re-rolling your RNG until something like this actually occurs. However, for those of you who consider yourself to be more advanced, I'm going to tell you really quickly while I hire an admiral, turn my army maintenance up, and begin maintaining my fort in Constantinople. What you're going to want to do is, the nations of significance are Albania, the Knights, because those two nations will help you on offensive wars. Also Wallachia or Serbia. Serbia will almost always help you. However, Wallachia will only help you under certain circumstances. They both begin with a truce with the Ottomans, however, and of course Poland and Hungary are both potential more powerful nations who will actually help you if you promise them land. Also, the Mamelukes should not be forgotten either. If he attacks Jandar, you're going to go ahead and improve your relations with all of those nations, especially the more powerful ones. You can prep it so that you can actually ally the weaker ones, and you're gunning for those stronger alliances, which of course often are obtainable. Given the fact that you're actually going to survive, you've been prioritizing that deploy reputation advisor, and sometimes waiting for them to be involved in a war and or emboldening your own military is going to enable you to actually ally them. So just to clarify, guys, you're waiting for him to attack Albania. If he goes for you, you actually make your alliance strong enough to where he will be deterred from attacking you. He goes for Jandar, you continue building your relations. And what you will find by using the same tactic after Jandar, if he looks at you and you go for the trade league, then it's just a matter of time until he actually attacks Albania. So the question is actually how powerful, or how powerful he's actually going to be when it actually happens. If it is past the year 1450, then of course any number of nations like Hungary that you have allied can actually help you in offensive war. But in my case, what I'm going to go ahead and do is simply attack him. The intention is to ally the Knights and call him in. However, the Knights is already involved in the war because he is allied with Albania. So your absolute priority, guys, is going to be wait long enough for the Ottoman Navy to at least be deterred, because the benefit of them fighting Venice and Albania, etc., Naxos, etc., is that they actually are going to really struggle at sea. And you're going to take advantage of this fact. You're going to be going for the province of Bega there, as I have just demonstrated. And the reason is because now we can block the strait to do the inverse of what most people are used to when they're playing the nation of Byzantium. We're going to be actually focusing on the Anatolian side. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's important to let the war against the Albanians actually play out for a few months. And the reason is because you don't want the Ottomans to just jump straight onto your provinces. You want to make sure that they've walked across the strait onto the Balkan side, and that they are now involved in the war with Venice. Now, you are going to have to deal with his allies. Luckily, he usually allies the Crimea or AQ, and usually not anything more than that. Those are the two strongest alliances he usually has at this stage. If the time had gone on dramatically, you might find that he does have Tunis or something of that nature. However, like I said, you have the potential to call in Hungary, which is a pretty game-changing Hungary, for example. But of course, my absolute priority is going to be to sit on that province, and I'm really looking out for units who are going to threaten me and come across the strait. However, they are pretty distracted at the very least, that's safe to say. So wherever you can, as I'm demonstrating here, you're going to want to do a number of two things, and that's pick off individual Ottoman fleet, but also participate in naval battles alongside his enemies, who are Venice, etc. And by utilizing this method, making occupations and pushing his fleet out at sea, you're going to find that you actually have naval superiority. Now, the good news, guys, the Crimea is actually the toughest to handle out of the two, of AQ and the Crimea, because he does have his own navy. However, the good news is that if you can get over onto his land, you can actually piece him out very easily. What you'll find is that if you actually make the occupations on each of the Crimean provinces and then sit on his capital, even without even dealing with his forces, you can actually separate piece him. So that's definitely what you're going to be aiming to do if needs be. So it turns out here, guys, if you're not blockading the fort in Edirne, you actually need to make you need to be sitting on the province of Bigger with at least one unit so that it doesn't flip back. Just keep that in mind because it's a little bit difficult to actually, as you can see I'm struggling here, maneuver around in this area, but it's very significant that we try to hold that occupation of Bigger whilst we're occupying these forts in order to free ourselves up. So I'm going to go ahead and speed things along here, guys, whilst I'm just sitting on these occupations. It's pretty self-explanatory what's happening. The only real threat are the AQ units. Now, some of you guys might have the idea to let them cross onto the Balkan side and then they can't really do anything to you. The downside to that, guys, is you have to remember that they don't have the enemies of Venice, etc. So they can actually pose a bit of a threat. It's up to you yourself, but deal with them in the best way you can. Luckily, both the Crimea and AQ in terms of force limit are actually weaker than yourself. In my case, I did improve relations with the Mamluks, and it does appear that if you do that, the Mamluks do have increased likelihood of actually giving you subsidies, which does ultimately happen, which is certainly helpful because you're very much going to commit to this, guys, and I recommend being around 3 over your force limit at least. But as I begin to make some occupations here, you can see that I'm going to be able to go ahead and, well, naturally occupy even more provinces. But you can see the knights are also landed on the Anatolian side, which does have the downside of the fact that I don't make the occupations, but it is really beginning to wound the Ottomans, if you will, in terms of war score. And the Ottomans, despite having sieged down Albania, are actually losing that war, which is exactly what you want to see. You will find that the Ottomans suffering from this amount of war exhaustion, etc., and the fact that he's dealing with Skanderbeg. You will find very often, guys, especially if you block the strait so that if he loses any battle he cannot pass across, that he will fairly consistently lose the battle against Venice. Albania very often will have the knights or one other small ally as well as the guarantee from Venice, which means that at the very least he's going to oppose as a deterrent, but more often than that he's actually going to be successful if you're it helps the fact that you're destroying him at sea and occupying these provinces. But my main focus right now is to deal with the Ottoman ally while I can, to actually separate piece him, because I will ultimately be dealing with the Ottomans myself if the Venetians and or the Albanians are to peace out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and begin to slow things down a little bit here now that things are coming to a bit of a head. You can see that the Ottomans are really losing in our own war, guys, but of course they are still a huge threat, and it's important to understand that we actually don't have any occupations on the Balkan side, meaning that we may not be able to actually take provinces over there. Now also consider the fact that I am improving relations with nations throughout the course of this war, securing myself a royal marriage there with Hungary, and I'm fairly confident that I'm going to be able to ally him after the war, considering, well, let's be optimistic that I will be more powerful, but I also have that Diplo reputation advisor ready to go. So my main focus here is to get rid of AQ, like I said, and regardless of who the ally is, you're definitely going to want to occupy each of their provinces and also sit on their forts that remain. You may find very often that even if it's a one province minor, if you're able to stack wipe their troops and then sit on their fort, that you can actually piece them out without actually completing the occupation of the fort itself. So it's about time that we really reflect on exactly what is happening. And what you will find is that if Albania is in fact destroying the Ottomans, which is what you wish to see, they are actually going to return provinces to you, believe it or not. And the reason is because Albania has no real incentive in the sense that it's a defensive war to take provinces. He is a small nation and he is going to suffer with rebels and so on, and any provinces that he takes does cost Diplo points. So it is actually preferable for him to actually return core to Byzantium. So that is exactly what you're hoping to happen, is that the Albanians are absolutely destroying the Ottomans enough to really punish him a significant amount, and then of course that's going to be followed up directly by your own peace offer. So with that being said, guys, I actually often don't do this, but we're going to go ahead and try to take some of the provinces on the Anatolian side on this peace offer. And a big issue that we're going to have with that naturally is going to be liberty desire, or excuse me, unrest. And for that reason, I'm going to consider releasing Jandar as a vassal. So my priority is to give us access over to the Orthodox provinces on the Balkan side, but also I'm going to be taking Jandar's cores because I wish to jump straight in against Jandar, fully annex him, and then release him again as a subject. Hopefully by that time I've integrated one of the two possible subjects that I already have in order to help out with liberty desire. Alrighty guys, I'm going to go ahead and actually speed things up here a little bit again, as basically at this point, to some extent, I'm waiting for the Albanian war to be over and for them to separate peace. However, you can see here that the Ottomans' navy has been completely disgraced, and I'm going to go ahead and make as many occupations as I can, including on the Balkan side, as well as fabricating on various nations of priority that I wish to jump into immediately after this war is over. Because of our occupations on Anatolia, I can certainly take a big chunk of land out there, but I am a little bit worried about the unrest situation. So I just want to reiterate, guys, the strategy. For those of you who are really struggling with this, I definitely recommend just re-rolling the game until the Ottomans attack Albania first, which is somewhat likely. They're most likely to actually attack Jandar. Now, if they did attack Jandar, I would have already grabbed Hungary as an ally, and that's exactly what you're going to be doing, is acquiring strong diplomacy by any means necessary. Of course, ideally those nations such as Hungary, in my case he's rivaling the Ottomans, who is actually going to be called into an offensive war against the Ottomans. But you're actually going to wait because, of course, with your strong alliance, the Ottomans are not likely to attack you until he attacks Albania to actually declare that. Now, if he does, of course, come for you, you're simply going to join a trade league. So at the very least, guys, I hope that you like the tips here on the fact that you can rival the Ottomans to build power projection. You can also join a trade league to protect yourself, meaning that you can do this kind of thing consistently. But at best, I hope that you guys have a great game and just smash the Ottomans, and that this video was very helpful. So just before the Albanians peace out here, guys, I do want to stress the fact that at this stage, you would be trying to swing the Albanian war in their own direction if they were not doing so well. If that makes sense, at this stage you've completed with piecing out his allies, sieging up the Anatolian side, and you would be trying to participate in the Albanian war, like siege back his capital, for example. But Albania has pieced out, and as you can see, he has actually given me 3 of my core provinces. So I'm turning the speed down a little bit here, and I'm really focusing on exactly what it is that I can do, because at the moment I'm 1v1ing the Ottomans, and that is quite scary. As you can see here, I'm not able to take Edirne as I do not have a province on the Balkan side. However, these 2 provinces, one being surrounded in southern Greece there, another being surrounded the Albanian provinces, I am able to take them as they are not protected by forts. I'm also able to take my core apparently in Burgas, if that's how you pronounce the province, and I'm also able to take whatever it is that I like on the Anatolian side. So you can see here that despite the Ottomans being involved in a 1v1 with me, and despite him having enough troops and formidable troops to defeat me in war, we have enough war score and his enthusiasm is low enough that we can absolutely devastate him here. And what you will find is that if you did make him a rival, you're going to be sitting at well above 50 power projection, and this is going to be a really good spot to be in. So again, I want to stress that my plan is to release Jandar as a subject in order to help me stabilize the Sunni region here in the initial early game, but I will have a total of 2 Sunni provinces, which after being emboldened this much, I'm positive I can handle. Naturally, guys, we're now well and truly a rival to the Ottomans, and you're going to depend on diplomacy to set you straight in the future. If you did have good luck like I did here, we attacked the Albanians, we did not even promise one of our allies land and be unfaithful to that promise, which means, of course, we could ally Hungary, which I'm about to do, and promise him land in our next war, and certainly not give him that land. Now, that Albanian province, one province minor that we actually own, I don't intend to state that up, so I'm going to go ahead and boost autonomy. That's one way to stabilize it, and like I said, my plan is to attack Janda myself. Crimea is his rival. I'm going to go ahead and humiliate the Crimea in a separate piece, which gives us some splendor, and claiming up the the provinces around Georgia here, the Orthodox provinces, and plenty of clay and opportunities to actually continue while the Ottomans are in a little bit of a rut. That's going to be pretty much it for this video, guys, as I build some alliances and so on here. I highly recommend going for the imams if you can, guys. Get your relations above 100, and if they flip friendly, offer them some land in your next war, and that's really going to make smashing the Ottomans a second time a breeze. But I just want to stress the fact, guys, that I've been sitting here trying to hammer out a strategy, and it's actually not that hard. I've been in many situations like this before to actually defeat the Ottomans, but there is a lot of RNG elements, as you can see, like how significant it is if he attacks one nation and not in another. But with that being said, guys, I hope that this has served you well, if not just for the little bits of information. And that's pretty much it for this video here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab Hungary myself. And make sure not to forget, guys, to certainly go for the Muscovites as an ally as well. They're definitely a great power at this stage of the game. And you can easily get over 100 relations with them if they integrate some of their subjects, meaning that they are easily allyable as because of the fact that you are Orthodox. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really do well and truly hope that it benefits those of you, and I hope many of you are motivated to continue even if you don't get the perfectly good luck.